And 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 to slowly be able to start doing this, I can tell you in you know, as everybody who has a few kids, every kid is different. And within the last 3 days, I have started to implement some of this with one or two of my children. And I was surprised at the lack of resistance to sticking with it. Again, consciously thinking, okay, let me see. I wanted to test this. So I was reading, preparing, thinking about this for the last week. I said, you know what, I want to test this. I have kids who run, the ones in my home now are from 9 till 2 or 1.5. So I got a whole bunch there, and I wanted to see, so how does this work? And I can tell you that just sticking to it in a, being prepared for it, that okay, I know what I want. There's a tone issue, and there's what is being said. Let's use a question. Those two things, they're simple, they're easy to remember, and they're very easy to implement. And they're all pervading. It is all pervading. It's constant. It is constant. So you're not going to get it 100% of the time. You're not going to change overnight from nagging, whining, whatever, constantly just berating parents. We're not going to change from one extreme to the other. But it is acceptable and it is appropriate to say to the kid, whatever age, excuse me, is there a question? Is there something you'd like? Please speak in a nice tone, and let's put in a question form. Another example, kid is walking out the door and leaving, honey, it's cold outside, put on a coat. I'm not cold. Shh, goodbye. Right? That's common, normal, right? Well, no, it's not. It's not okay. I mean, think about, we've gotten used to something that's really not okay. The parent said something. Now, it might be okay for the kid to say, I'm not really that cold. Would it be okay if I wear a sweater? Do you think, it's not, I don't feel that cold. Is it all right? There's a way to go about this. Ignoring the parent, dumping on the parent is not okay. We're so beaten down. The bar has been lowered so much that we're afraid that perhaps we're overstepping our bounds as a parent to actually say that, you know what, this is not the way to speak. Those two things, tone of voice and in a question. Those are very easy, clear things to start implementing, and they are very, very profound because they're all pervasive. They're constant. Number three, and this is another one that is very, very common. Particularly, I don't know if it happens, I'm thinking about it, yeah, it happens with older kids too, but even more with younger kids, and this is something really to implement with younger kids, and that is, you are not your child's aid. You are not your kid's gopher. Okay? And what does that mean? So if the kid is sitting down to dinner and you're standing up and, Mom, Dad, can you get me a spoon? That's acceptable. You're standing up. You're walking around. You're near it. That's no big deal. You're sitting down with them. Mom, can you get me a cup? Can you get me a cup of water? Dad, can you get me a napkin? It's easier not to fight about it. I'll get up and get it. I don't want to start something. They're sitting down, they're eating. So whose interests am I fulfilling here? Mine. I'm tired. I don't want to fight, so I'm going to do what's asked of me. But I've just taught the kid something that's unhealthy. It's not. I am not. The kid is perfectly capable. The kid is perfectly capable of getting up and getting a plate or getting a napkin or getting a spoon. And they should do it. They should not see us as their gophers. It's not respect. It's surely not reverence. And so again, obviously this doesn't mean, this needs seichel, how to implement. It doesn't mean in a rigid kind of way that I can never do anything for my child. God forbid, I'm not saying that. I am not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. It takes some common sense to understand when yes and when no. But the rule being that the child needs to come to understand that I am not there, that if they are capable, they should be doing it. I am not there to go and fulfill their every whim and desire. It is a flipping of roles. I am there to help guide them, to help teach them, to help them grow up physically, spiritually, morally. And part of that means that I teach them that there is such a thing as respect, and they need to start implementing it. So those are three very basic. So there's two. We spoke about two behaviors on our side. Don't be their best friend. We don't need to be cool. We don't need to, we need to be a parent, not a friend. And don't give up the position. We are not equals in decision making in the home. That's for us. And for the kids, we spoke about three things: tone, question, and what's the final one? We're not their gophers. We're not their aides. Okay? Now, as I said before, that this idea is expressed in halacha, this idea of a question is expressed in halacha in text 10 on page 13. If one sees his father transgressing, and by the way, this is something very, very important, and this is the final thing that I wanted to say in terms of a practical lesson. Final point about a practical lesson. If one sees his father transgressing, this is text 10 on page 13, he must not say you have violated a Torah commandment. Stop. You're doing a sin. Rather, he should say, Father, does not the Torah say such and such? Doesn't it say that we're not supposed to? The tone should be that of a question, not of an admonishment. The father will thus understand that he erred, but will not be humiliated. So, as parents, we make mistakes. We make mistakes. It is important to teach the proper way for a child to correct a parent. Okay? Not only do we make mistakes, but to our great annoyance, kids catch them all the time. They catch us right away on our mistakes. And the fact that we made a mistake, it doesn't give the child carte blanche to go and, admonish us or be disrespectful. There's a proper way, as described in this halacha. There's a way to do it as a question. Dad, I thought you're not supposed to double park, right? That's what you always say when you see other people doing it. Why aren't you doing it, right? Oh, there you go, Mom. You're biting your nails again. Ugh, So there's a couple of things that's in that statement that's sort of violated. The first guideline that we spoke before, questions, not statements. Tone, right? These are all things that are inappropriate. And in addition, the rules of respect are not lifted when we make a mistake. We made a mistake. We're human. It's true. And we ought to acknowledge, by the way. I'm not saying we shouldn't acknowledge a mistake. We absolutely should acknowledge. You know what? You're right. You're right. There is a mistake. But that is after the teaching that we need to do, which is, is there a question there? Is that how we speak? And now, by the way, part of the reason we don't do that is because we're embarrassed. When we make a mistake, when we're caught on a mistake, especially an inconsistency, where we said, here, the example of the father who double parks, he says, well, you're not supposed to do that. And now he's doing it. It happens. Whoops, so now we're inconsistent. So either I get angry at the kid, or I laugh it off, and now somehow the kid thinks it's okay to speak that way because we're less than perfect. So it could be, how dare you speak that way to me? Because now we're feeling very bad about what we've done, right? So it can't come from, and that's obviously ineffective. It can't come from the point of a bruised ego. It does have to come from the point, from the cardinal principle that we described, what is in the best interest of the child? Is this good for the child to go blowing off their parents that way? Or is it unhealthy for them? And so yes, if my ego is bruised, then maybe I ought to wait to respond until I can respond in a way that's going to be effective for the child. Okay? So it may be much easier and more convenient to ignore the guidelines and to suck it up. Okay, the kid said something and I'm going to ignore it. I'm not going to, excuse me, I'm going to clean up after the kid. I'm going to go get them the plate. I'm going to go, it's just going to take me 10 seconds. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to fight with them. I got to pick my battles. All of those things. Is it in the best interest of the child? Or is it my exhaustion that's causing it? And again, exhaustion is real. Don't get me wrong. It's very real. But the guiding principle has to be there. What is in the best interest of the child? So to conclude, we learned two very important foundational ideas about parenting. Number one, it's all about the child's benefit. And number two, to be able to do what we need to do for our children, to guide them, we must establish and express the position or fortify the idea that we are the parents. Okay? Those 2 points are absolutely vital in being able to implement everything else we're going to learn in these lessons. Okay? And there's tremendous practical advice coming up in real life scenarios, real stuff. But in order to do that, these 2 foundational points are critical. Okay? So let's conclude with 2 final brief thoughts, and they are: when viewed from a Jewish perspective, parenting is not easy. We have to set aside our own interests and our own needs and really focus on the needs of others, even if those others, they happen to be our children. Okay? We have to bear in mind that if God gives us children, He believes that we have it in us to properly raise them and educate them. And we also have to bear in mind that it does not mean, and it's not about being perfect. It's not about us being perfect. It's not an all or nothing proposition. Okay? It's about doing our best and trying to improve over what we did yesterday, and setting goals, small ones, growing and achieving them. Okay? And every small improvement we make as parents and in parenting, it actually has huge dividends in our children. And number 2, there is a paradox in parenting. On one hand, we want to get out of the way of our children and to allow them to thrive and to grow. On the other hand, we know that for our children to thrive and to grow, we know we need to be there for our children in order that they can get there. The way we reconcile this about being there and yet being out of the way is by removing our ego from the equation. We can be there for them, but it's not about us. It has to be about them. Okay? And we have to concern ourselves, we have to continually ask ourselves the question, what is best for them? So this way, we're both in the picture and out of the picture at the same time. And so, with that, we conclude tonight's lesson. I'm just going to ask somebody, I know it's late, I'm going to ask somebody to read the key points on page 15, if we may. Somebody want to